Want to talk about who might replace him in the Senate, okay? Sure. So here are the names that are being floated. Kirk Adams, the Arizona governor's chief of staff. Karen Taylor Robson, a real estate developer. Eileen Klein, Arizona state treasurer. Cindy McCain, the widow, his widow, of course. And then, of course, sometimes daughters do, sometimes children do. There's Meghan McCain. She's become a voice for that generation of Republicans. She hopes to be. John Kyle, former Arizona Republican senator. John Shadegg, former Arizona Congressman. Matt Salmon, former Arizona Republican congressman.
This is the shotgun stage of speculation. Governor Ducey has said he will not make an announcement until after the funeral, the memorial service, which will occur at the National Cathedral, we believe, on Saturday. Cindy McCain had been named, and there is a tradition, particularly of wives succeeding their husbands in the Senate. But the tide seems to have turned, at least in the conversation of conventional wisdom. His governor's current chief of staff is the former Speaker of the Arizona House. John Kyle is a former Senate colleague of John McCain's, and it would be to some extent a caretaker. They would hold the office until 2020, then run again in 2022. They would have a major impact on politics for the next 2 years, potentially, given how closely divided the Senate is. But this is all stirring the water conversation.
Well, there are two questions. The short-term question, which is, do you appoint someone who would just be a caretaker for 2 years or someone who wants to run again? But there's the bigger picture question here, which is Governor Ducey going to appoint a McCain Republican
or a Trump Republican?
Or a Trump Republican?
Yeah, exactly.
And sadly, I think about the only McCain Republican that he could possibly appoint would be actually a McCain, like somebody like Cindy McCain, because there are almost no actual McCain Republicans left in a place like Arizona.
Or Jeff Flake.
Outgoing Senator Jeff Flake.
That would be hilarious.
Just for fantasy baseball purposes.
I'd be in favor of that. It's probably not going to happen. That'd be great if it did.
But I do think there is a big question there. And I think, as you note, I think he will be a more Trump-like person, which speaks volumes.
Yeah.
David Gregory, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I agree with them. I mean, I think the politics of Arizona, like the Republican Party politics of the country, look at what the president is tweeting about, you know, his approval rating among Republicans, which is extremely high. And in a state like Arizona, he did very well. You know, a Republican governor's got to be thinking about the future of the state and the trend line of the politics. And I suspect that's where he'll end up, unless he wants to put up a firewall and try to keep the McCain family name alive.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
But just, you know, the number of independent voters in Arizona, for example, has been rising dramatically. There are a plurality in Phoenix itself. So I think the stereotype of Arizona being deep red doesn't necessarily hold anymore. I mean, Kristen Sinema, the presumptive Democratic nominee for senator, doing very well there. So the Arizona itself has had more independent voters influencing its politics rather than the old Western conservative base.
I think, John, you make an important point, because we have to remember that even though the Republican Party has been completely Trumpified, the actual Republican Party has shrunk as a percentage of the population. You're talking about 26% of the country identifies as Republicans. Very, very low.
Gentlemen.
Two of them, 27-year-old Taylor Robertson from West Virginia and 22-year-old Eli Clayton from California. The name of the suspect, David Katz, 24 years of age, from Baltimore. Now, here's what we know. According to authorities, shots rang out at about 1:30 yesterday at Chicago Pizza during a video game tournament. Now, the chilling moments were captured on audio. And I gotta let you know that this audio and video is disturbing. Take a listen.
It's gonna be hard to get them on stream.
It's not a tough out today. Excuse me, not an easy out.
Oh, what are you shooting with? Oh.
7 Jacksonville firefighters, according to the Firefighters Association, were actually training in front of that complex where the shooting happened. And those firefighters responded immediately. They split up. 4 of them started treating the injured out here on the street. The other 3 flagged a police officer and were the first on the scene. Now, according to authorities, there's 13 victims. 2 of them died, and the other 11 were somehow injured. The suspect, according to authorities, took his own life. John.
All right, Rosa Flores for us in Jacksonville. Rosa, thanks for staying on that for us. Pope Francis is refusing to comment on claims he was told about sexual abuse allegations against a high-profile U.S. cardinal years ago and did nothing about it. CNN's Delia Gallagher live in Rome with the very latest. Delia.
Well, John, those allegations coming from the former papal envoy to the United States in an 11-page statement that was issued on Sunday while the Pope was in Ireland on the return flight last night to Rome. The Pope addressed those allegations, and he told journalists this. He said, "I will not say a single word on this. I read the statement this morning, and I must tell you sincerely, read the statement carefully and make your own judgment." Also, John, the Pope said that he won't speak on it now, but he may sometime in the future. This came as he wrapped up his 2 days in Ireland, a very different Ireland from the one that John Paul II saw in 1979. It was a somber visit with Pope Francis apologizing various times for sex abuse and for cover-up. He met with survivors of sex abuse as well as survivors of Ireland's notorious mother and baby homes. But we heard time and time again, John and Alison, in Ireland, that the survivors and others would like action from the Vatican, not just words, but they may have to wait some time before they see that.
Yes,
Alison?
Delia, we hear that here in the U.S. as well. So many people looking for action. Thank you very much. So a legend in the entertainment world passes away. How Neil Simon is being remembered today.
She vanished in July after going out for a jog. Her body was found last week. The 24-year-old undocumented immigrant accused of killing her is expected back in court later this week. He's being held in $5 million bond.
Neil Simon, one of the most prolific playwrights in American history, has died. Simon's publicist tells CNN that he died from complications with pneumonia early Sunday morning. Simon was behind classic comedies including The Odd Couple, Barefoot in the Park, and Brighton Beach Memoirs. During his career, he snagged 16 Tony nominations. He won 3 of those. He also earned 4 Oscar nominations and a Pulitzer Prize. Simon was 91 years old.
And even with all those accolades, he was still underrated. A team from Honolulu in Hawaii can say they are the best in the world after winning the 2018 Little League World Series Sunday. The team got an early lead after hitting this home run. They beat the team from South Korea 3-0. This is the 3rd time Hawaii has won, and the first time ever for a team from Honolulu. Former president and Honolulu native Barack Obama even tweeted the boys congratulations. And I gotta say, Hawaii's gone through a lot over the last few months between the volcano eruption and the hurricane that just hit there. So it's nice that they have this news to celebrate.
That last hit could have gone from Oahu to Maui. That was really far.
Well done on the Jared.
Hey, thanks. What I lack in sports references, I make up for in Hawaiian references.
Well done.
Okay. From the battlefield to the Senate, John McCain's legacy is being honored around the world this morning. But President Trump is taking a different combination for somebody. Obviously, I mean, he won 6 terms. That just, I think, was the mark of his whole outlook on life.
Humor and humility, an all too rare combination this morning. Senator John McCain, his life and legacy is being remembered not only from lawmakers in the United States, but truly all around the world. From Navy pilot to war hero to this longtime senator and Republican nominee, Senator McCain will be honored for 5 days in 3 cities this week. It's a schedule that was meticulously planned by McCain himself. Memorials will be held in his home state of Arizona. And later in the week, the senator will lie in state at the U.S. Capitol before he is laid to rest at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, where he graduated 5 from the bottom, by the way,
which he
in his
always
class.
Joked about.
Which he bragged about,
know,
not just joked about. He bragged about it. Throughout the morning, we'll be speaking with McCain's friends and colleagues.
So as the country mourns John McCain, President Trump has taken a different approach. CNN has learned that the White House drafted a statement for President Trump to release that praised McCain's service, but it was never released. According to the Washington Post, Mr. Trump rejected the advice of his chief of staff, John Kelly, and press secretary Sarah Sanders. You know, they wanted to release this official tribute, but instead the president opted to post a brief tweet on McCain's passing, never mentioning the senator's 4-decade career in Washington or his sacrifice and service in Vietnam. So joining us now is the reporter on that piece. We have CNN political analyst and White House reporter for the Washington Post, Josh Dawsey. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning, Allison. How are you?
I'm well. Why did President Trump not want to release an official White House statement on John McCain's service?
So the president's senior aides crafted a statement that called McCain a hero and delved into the details of his life as a prisoner of war at his time in the Senate. And it was a laudatory kind of accomplishments list on the Arizona senator. When they presented the president the statement on Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, when John McCain died, the president nixed it and said that he would prefer to send a tweet instead. And then the president on Saturday evening tweeted condolences to the McCain family, but conspicuously absent in the tweet was any sort of commendation towards McCain for his time in the military, his time in the Senate, or any sort of positive praise about the long-term senator.
And Josh, do you have any reporting on why? Why doesn't President Trump respect John McCain's military service and sacrifice?
Well, the two have a contentious relationship, to say the least, largely precipitated by the president. The president, as you remember, back in 2015, said that John